Hi, students. This is a quick grammar review. The reason I'm reviewing grammar is because it is a very important part of writing. If I can't read your essay because of grammar issues, that really impacts your grade. So don't forget about that. Remember that. So I'm going to review the major grammar mistakes. You are responsible for the rest of the grammar mistakes like spelling and punctuation and other grammar mechanic rules. And to view your grammar rules, just go to here, OWL at Purdue, or you can go to a basic grammar textbook, or just go to Blackboard in the grammar folder and you'll see all of the rules. Okay. So let's go with the first rule, which is wordiness. So make sure when you write your papers, make sure you do not have wordy papers. Wordy papers, for instance, if your paper is supposed to be 2 pages and you write 5 pages, I can pretty much guarantee that most of that is nothing but just wordiness. So you have to, once you write your draft, you have to work on, okay, eliminating all the unnecessary repetitious language. Remember, every sentence you write is there to prove the thesis. So let's look at this example right here. This is actually a sentence, but it's a wordy sentence. So it's your job to sit down and figure out, okay, how can I uh, get rid of all of this useless language or needless language or fluff in order to see the main idea. So it says here in modern times of today, the majority of Americans in our society, by and large, have come to recognize that our senior citizens are in need of quite a number of kinds of help and assistance that they are not receiving as of yet. Okay, let's look at this. In modern times of today, all I have to do is just say today, because in modern times, that's today. The majority of Americans in our society, you can just say the majority of Americans, because in our society, you mentioned Americans, so they have to be in America, right? By and large, you don't need by and large. I've come to recognize that our senior citizens are in need of quite a number of kinds of help and assistance. Okay, help and assistance, those are the same thing. So just focus on, choose the one that's more, the word that's more sophisticated. Assistance are in need of assistance that they are not, that they are not receiving. And there you are. Now look at how clean that is. Look at how clean that is compared to what we had before. Okay. Now you can read it. The majority of Americans, you can even say recognize that our senior citizens are in need of assistance that they are not receiving. There you go. You've eliminated all of the wordiness. But how do you eliminate wordiness? It takes looking at your paper over and over and over again. You have to revise your paper to get rid of all the unnecessary wordiness. Remember, every sentence is there to help prove your thesis. Okay. The next rule or grammar mistake that I see in papers a lot is I see a lot of vagueness. So words like this, that, it, and which, those are considered really vague words. You have to define those words. Everything you write, guys, it has to be really super precise. So everything you write, make sure that it's very precise. So don't use ambiguous language. So here it says, I don't think they should show violence on TV. You have to ask yourself, who are they? Who are they? Okay. When you write, you have to be precise. It's when you're talking, it's easy when you're talking to your friends not to be as precise, but when you write, you really do have to be so precise when you write. So instead of saying they, just say, I don't think, you know, the producers should show violence on TV. That's more precise. Okay. Here, commas. So you guys, there are a lot of comma rules, but you only need to be responsible for the basic ones. So there's a rule called commas before coordinating conjunctions. And pretty much this means that if you have two complete sentences and they're connected by a coordinated conjunction, and the acronym for a coordinated conjunction is, oh, sorry about that, FAN. boys. F stands for for and nor, but, or, yet. And so, if you have two complete sentences connected by a fanboy, you put a comma before that conjunction. Okay. Put a comma after introductory word groups. Like, yes, you may have a slice of cake. Or when Irwin was ready to iron, comma, his cat tripped on the cord. This part right here is called a dependent clause. This is independent. It can stand on its own. Okay. I always put a comma to separate the two. Use commas after the quotes, before quotes, pretty much. He said, comma, I do not care. Use commas to set off zip codes, addresses. Use commas to prevent confusion. He was merely stupid, ignorant, comma, not stupid. Use commas for extra information. Now, I always tell students, be careful with commas with extra information because it's not necessary to write too many with too many commas. You want to use your comma sparingly. So just remember, pretty much anything is extra information. Just put commas around the extra information. How do I know it's extra information? Because if I get rid of the extra information, you'll still have a complete sentence. Okay. So here, as you can see, the wall clock looks expensive, comma, but it doesn't work. Two complete sentences joined by a fanboy, coordinating conjunction, put a comma there. Reluctantly, comma, that's words that start, introductory words that start a sentence. And he is your boyfriend, right? Comma for emphasis right there. Now, a fragment. What is a fragment? A fragment is another mistake you don't want to make when you write. A fragment is a piece of something. It is not a sentence. A fragment is missing something. A fragment can have a subject and it can have a verb. It just doesn't make sense. It does not express a complete thought. Okay. So that's the thing with fragments. They do not express complete thoughts. How do you fix a fragment? You add whatever's missing, add whatever is missing. And instead of putting a period right here, because she wasn't comfortable, period, she went home to change. This part right here, that period makes this a fragment. Put a comma after, get rid of the period, put a comma there, and then lowercase the s and she. Okay, lowercase the s. Because she wasn't comfortable, she went home to change. Or just transpose it and just say she went home to change because she wasn't comfortable. So how do you fix a fragment? Add whatever's missing. Instead of a period, put a comma, or just completely rewrite the fragment into a complete sentence. Okay. Right here, blocking my driveway was a car, a huge SUV. What's the fragment? A huge SUV, because that doesn't make sense by itself. Blocking my driveway was a car. That's a sentence right there. Okay. So how do I get rid of it? Get rid of that period, put a comma, and lowercase the a. Okay, just a word on parallelism. Words like for instance, parallelism is important. It's just a fancy word for flow. So make sure that your ideas have good flow. So here it says Mary likes hiking, swimming, bicycling. But look at this. Mary likes hiking, swimming, and to ride a bicycle. Notice how there's no parallelism there. Just make sure all your ideas flow. How do you make sure your ideas flow? Um, always use transition words. Subject verb agreement. So subject verb agreement is important. Like when you have a singular subject, always have a singular verb. When you have a plural subject, always have a plural verb. And when it's singular, the verbs end with s. When it's plural, you drop the s. Subjects are never found in prepositional phrases. So how do you know what's a prepositional phrase? There's a group of prepositions that you probably learned when you were in second grade. They're all on Google. just look for, if you're writing a sentence and you're trying to figure out, gee, what is the prepositional phrase, so I can determine what my subject verb agreement is. Just pretend to get rid of the prepositional phrase. Usually they show associations. Not all of the time, but most of the time they do show associations. So here, the group of protesters, that's my prepositional phrase, pretend to get rid of it, is one group is. Some words are plural, but they sound singular. Words like somebody, anybody, either, each, like word like everybody. Everybody is in the classroom. Some people may be tempted to say everybody are in the classroom or something like that. But words like everybody, that sounds like a plural word, but remember it's singular. Everybody, just like somebody, it's like saying one body, every one body. Okay, that's what it's like saying. So it's singular. So somebody left his keys, or you can say her keys on the table. Ignore pseudo connectors. Okay. Pretty much that's a fancy word for extra information. So how do I know if I want to find my subject verb agreement and I have extra information? How do I know it's extra information? Because it's surrounded by commas. Pretend to get rid of the extra information. Whatever's left over is what you deal with. Be quiz, one quiz was. And if one subject is plural and the other subject is singular, the verb agrees with the nearest subject. Neither the quality, which is singular, nor the prices, plural, have changed because prices is plural. So you know the verb has to be plural. And just take a look at this. Everybody will need his own notebook, not there. Because everybody is like saying every one body. Okay. A doctor, along with the nurses, was a word. Well, this is extra information. I don't need it to determine my subject verb agreement. So it's whatever you have left is a doctor, one doctor was. Okay. Anybody can check his or their. A lot of you may be tempted to say, oh, there, anybody can check their banking online. No, anybody is like saying any one body. So any one body can check his. Okay. And then a word on past present tense. I'm sorry, tenses. These are the tenses. So when you write your paper, write in present tense. That means it's happening now. Sometimes if you write about a past event, you will have to change your tense. How do you change a verb to past tense? Just add ed. World War II ended in 1945. Future tense means that it will happen, and you usually use the word will. I will go to the store tomorrow. Present perfect tense, that means that something happened in the present. Okay, like say earlier today, it happened in the present, or let's say it happened a while back. However, this is the clue. It's continuing to happen. So if I say something like I've had a headache all day, notice how I said I have had. I've had a headache all day. You use have or has in this tense. So women have voted in presidential elections since 1921. When did they start voting? 1921, and they're still voting. And past perfect tense, and you'll know these sentences by the way they look. By the time the troops arrived, meaning that something happened in the past and another past event, a past event intersected it. So by the time the troops arrived, the war had ended, not ended, even though I don't think most people would care if you put ended, but if you want to be grammatically correct, this had ended. Okay. That's pretty much it with the grammar, guys. Those were the major grammar mistakes that I tend to see in papers that I want you to be aware of. And if all else fails and you feel like, oh my God, I'm not good at grammar. I'm not that great at it. You should not be afraid. Just go to a tutor and ask the tutor to help you identify your grammar mistakes. That's all you have to do. Go to a tutor and help ask the tutor to help you recognize your grammar mistakes and practice. Just practice. When you practice, you'll get you become better at it. Okay. And if you have questions, of course, always ask me. And that's it for this session. Thank you so much for looking at this. Bye.